Want to speak to Maureen Miller, an infectious disease epidemiologist at Columbia University who's worked with the Chinese virologist who studies bat coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute. Thank you very much for joining us on Outside Source. Do you think it's appropriate that Joe Biden asks for further investigations into this lab theory?
I think it is appropriate that Joe Biden ask for additional research into the origins of SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID. But I think it needs to be a much more comprehensive approach than is currently being highlighted. Right now, they're only focusing on the lab, which still most scientists in the United States believe is the least likely mechanism for the spread of SARS-CoV-2. The most likely mechanism sounds like science fiction, but it's true. Likely is the case and has been the case for millennia that viruses in animals spill over to humans and cause disease because humans have no immunity against these animal viruses. Of the 260 human viruses that are currently known, 2/3 of them were originally animal viruses. This is all of the other viruses that have caused outbreaks and epidemics, and particularly in the 21st century. They've all been caused by animals, and there's not been a debate about it.
And while we bear that advice in mind, I was mentioning that you've worked with a Chinese virologist who worked at the Wuhan Institute. What do you make of those Americans who visited the Institute in advance of COVID-19 and are reported to have raised concerns about the safety protocols within that institute?
I do not know that firsthand. I do know that there were some concerns, and they're currently being studied by virologists in the United States, that Sheng Lishi was working with coronaviruses, SARS-like coronaviruses, in a biosafety level 2 laboratory. In the United States, it is standard to work with pathogens that could have pandemic potential to work in a BSL-3 laboratory. And if you're doing very serious work, to work in a BSL-4 laboratory. And I think that's the point that virologists who have signed on to the idea that we need to really investigate this lab at the cost of all else, I might add. I think that is the information that they're hanging their hat on. But again, I worry that we're not going to really investigate the other likely and probably true scenario that it began in a bat. We have a bat that has 96% agreement with SARS-CoV-2. So it probably started in this bat, went to an intermediary animal, and then ended up in humans. We could potentially do pretty easy studies right now in China, in southern China, where that bat is found, to do serosurveys, which is antibody testing on blood samples that have been stored in the hospitals and blood banks. Right now, we only have very select information from Wuhan, from the WHO investigation. They were only limited to Wuhan. Chances are really good that this virus began in southern China, perhaps in Yunnan.
Dr. Miller, that's really helpful. Thanks for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.